As twilight falls and the world quiets, imagine yourself standing on the banks of the Nile, where the river's gentle ripples catch the last glimmers of a golden sun. The air is warm, scented with lotus and papyrus, and the distant call of a heron echoes through the stillness. This is ancient Egypt, a land where gods walked among mortals, where myths were woven into the very fabric of existence, and where stories of creation, love, betrayal, and divine power shaped a civilization that still captivates our hearts. Tonight, we embark on a journey through the history of Egyptian mythology, a tale not just of gods and monsters, but of a people who saw the divine in every sunrise, every flood, and every star in the endless desert sky. This is a story meant to lull you into restful slumber, to carry you gently into dreams where pharaohs and deities whisper their ancient secrets. Close your eyes and let the rhythm of this tale guide you. Picture the towering pyramids, their stones glowing under the moon, and the sacred temples where priests chanted hymns to gods with names like Ra, Isis, and Osiris. This video is crafted to soothe, to immerse you in a world where the line between mortal and divine blurs, where every myth carries the weight of thousands of years. Whether you're here to learn, to relax, or to drift into sleep, let these stories wrap around you like a soft blanket, carrying you back to a time when the gods themselves shaped the world. Before we begin, I'd love to connect with you. From where are you listening to this history tonight? What time is it there? Are you nestled in bed, or perhaps sitting by a window watching the stars? Drop a comment below to share. It's a joy to know where these tales reach you. If you enjoy this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a story. Your support keeps this channel alive, bringing more myths and histories to light your dreams. Hello, my name is Sherry, and welcome to my channel. So let's begin. Imagine a time before time, a place before places, where nothing existed but an endless, swirling void. This was none, the primordial waters, a vast and formless abyss that stretched beyond comprehension, dark and silent, yet pregnant with possibility. No stars twinkled above, no earth lay beneath, no breath stirred the stillness. It was chaos, but not the chaos of destruction, rather, a chaos of potential, waiting for the spark of creation to ignite it. To the ancient Egyptians, this was the beginning, the moment when the universe held its breath, and from this infinite darkness, the first stirrings of life emerged. Close your eyes and picture that endless sea, its waters lapping gently at the edges of nothingness, whispering secrets that only the gods could hear. In this primordial void, there was no sun to warm the world, no moon to guide the night. Yet within none's depths, something stirred, a faint pulse, a flicker of divine will. The Egyptians believed that from this formless expanse rose Atum, the first god, the self-created one. He was not born as mortals are, nor shaped by another's hands. Atum simply was, a solitary figure emerging from the waters like a lotus blooming in the dawn. His name, meaning the all or the complete one, carried the weight of his purpose: to bring order to the chaos, to weave existence from the threads of nothingness. Can you see him now, standing alone in the dark, his presence a beacon in the vast emptiness? His form was human, yet radiant, his eyes holding the promise of creation itself. Atum's first act was one of profound solitude, for he was alone, the only being in a universe yet to be born. The Egyptians told of how he stood upon a mound, a tiny island of solidity amid the churning waters of none. This mound, known as the Benben, was sacred, a symbol of the first land, the first moment when chaos gave way to order. In later times, the priests of Heliopolis, the city of the sun, would honor this mound in their temples. Its shape echoed in the pointed capstones of pyramids that reached for the heavens. Picture that mound now, a small hill rising from the waters, its surface kissed by the first light of Atum's will. It was here, in this sacred space, that creation began, not with a thunderous proclamation, but with a quiet, deliberate act of divine intention. How did Atum create? The myths are poetic, layered with meaning. Some say he spoke the world into being, his voice rippling through the void, each word shaping reality. Others whisper a more intimate tale, that Atum in his solitude brought forth life from himself. In one sacred act, he spat or exhaled, and from his breath came Shu, the god of air, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture. These were the first children of creation, twin deities born not of another, but of autumn's own essence. Imagine the scene. Autumn, standing on his mound, his breath visible in the cool darkness, forming two figures who shimmered into existence. Shu, with his breezy, weightless presence, and Tefnut, her form glistening like dew, were the first steps toward a world filled with life. The creation of Shu and Tefnut was no mere act of divine whim. To the Egyptians, air and moisture were the building blocks of existence, the elements that made life possible. Shu was the breath that stirred the stillness, the wind that carried the scent of the Nile across the desert. Tefnut was the dampness that clung to the earth, the life-giving rains that would one day nourish the fields. Together, they were the foundation of the world, the first threads in the tapestry of creation. Yet they were not perfect. The myths tell us that Shu and Tefnut, still young and curious, wandered into the darkness of none, lost in the chaos from which they were born. Autumn, their father, was struck with fear, for the void was vast, and even gods could be swallowed by its depths. Can you feel his anguish, the first god alone once more, searching for his children in the endless night? Autumn's search was not in vain. He sent his eye, a divine spark, a piece of his own power, into the void to find them. This eye, later associated with the sun or the goddess Hathor, roamed the darkness, its light piercing the shadows until it found Shu and Tefnut, huddled together, frightened but unharmed. When they returned to Autumn, his joy was so great that he wept, and from his tears sprang the first humans, born to inhabit the world he would create. Picture those tears now, falling onto the Benben mound, each one sparkling with life, each one a soul that would walk the earth. This was the moment when humanity entered the story, not as masters, but as children of the divine, tied forever to the gods who shaped them. This creation myth, told in the temples of Heliopolis, was more than a story to the Egyptians. It was a truth, a way to understand the world's beginning and their place within it. Autumn's emergence from none was not just the birth of a god, but the birth of order, of meaning, of life itself. The mound, the breath, the tears, all were sacred, woven into the rituals and beliefs that sustained a civilization for millennia. As we drift deeper into this tale, let the image of that first mound linger in your mind, a solitary point of light in the darkness, a promise of what was to come. But what happened next, when Shu and Tefnut, now safe, began to shape the world? What new gods would rise, and what conflicts would stir in the divine family? Let the gentle rhythm of this story carry you forward, as the Nile carries its waters, into the next chapter of creation. The waters of none have receded in our minds, leaving behind the sacred mound where Autumn, the first god, stood alone, his breath giving life to Shu and Tefnut. Now, as the universe begins to take shape, imagine a world still soft and new, where the air hums with possibility and the first droplets of moisture glisten like jewels in the half-light. Shu, the god of air, moves like a warm breeze, his presence light yet boundless, filling the void with the breath of life. Tefnut, the goddess of moisture, shimmers beside him, her essence the gentle mist that clings to the earth, the promise of rain that will one day nourish the barren lands. Together, they are the first children of creation, the twin pillars upon which the world will rise. But their story is only beginning, and the gods they will bring forth will weave a tapestry of divine kinship that echoes through the ages. Picture them now, standing hand in hand, their forms radiant against the fading darkness, as the next chapter of creation unfolds. In the sacred city of Heliopolis, where priests chanted hymns beneath the rising sun, the story of the Ennead, the 9 great gods, was told with reverence. The Ennead was not merely a collection of deities, but a family, bound by blood and purpose, each one a piece of the cosmic puzzle that formed the world. Shu and Tefnut, born of Autumn's will, were not content to exist alone. They were gods of action, of creation, driven by the same divine spark that had brought them into being. In their union, they brought forth 2 children, Jeb, the god of the earth, and Nut, the goddess of the sky. Can you see them emerging, their forms taking shape in the haze of the newborn world? Jeb, with his body as solid as the desert sands, his laughter deep and resonant, like the rumble of shifting stone. Nut, arched above him, her skin a deep blue, speckled with stars, her presence vast and eternal, a canopy of light stretching over the emptiness. The birth of Jeb and Nut was a moment of profound balance, for they were opposites yet inseparable. Jeb was the earth itself, the fertile soil that would one day cradle the Nile's floods, the bedrock upon which cities and temples would rise. His body was the land, his heartbeat the pulse of the world beneath our feet. Nut, his twin and beloved, was the sky, her form curving over the earth like a protective mother, her starry cloak a map of the heavens that guided sailors and priests alike. The Egyptians saw them as lovers, their bond so deep that they clung to each other, their bodies entwined in an embrace that left no space for the world to grow. Picture them now, locked in that eternal embrace, their love so fierce that it threatened to halt creation itself. What could separate such a pair, and what would their parting mean for the world? Autumn, watching from his mound, saw the danger in their closeness. The universe was still forming, still fragile, and Jeb and Nut's union left no room for life to flourish. It was Shu, the god of air, who was called upon to act. With a gentle yet unyielding strength, Shu stepped between his children, his arms raised to lift Nut high above Jeb. Imagine the scene. Shu, standing tall, his breath a mighty wind that parted the lovers, raising Nut into the heavens where she became the sky, her body arched over the earth like a celestial dome. Jeb, below, cried out in longing, his voice the tremors that shook the mountains, his tears the rivers that carved the land. The separation was not cruel but necessary, for it created the space where life could exist, the space where humanity, animals, and plants would one day thrive. Can you feel the ache of that moment, the bittersweet necessity of their parting, as the world took its first true breath? This act of separation was sacred, a moment etched into the Egyptian soul. The priests of Heliopolis taught that Shu stood forever between Jeb and Nut, holding the sky aloft, his presence the air that filled the world. Nut, suspended above, became the mother of the stars, her body a canvas for the constellations that told the stories of the gods. Jeb, below, became the father of the land, his body the foundation of Egypt itself. Their love, though parted, was never broken. At night, when the sun dipped below the horizon, Nut descended to touch Jeb once more, their reunion cloaking the world in darkness. By day, Shu lifted her again, and the cycle of night and day was born. Picture that rhythm now, the eternal dance of earth and sky, a love story written in the turning of the world. Yet the Ennead was not complete. Nut, the sky goddess, bore 4 children, Osiris, Isis, Set, and Nephthys, each destined to play a pivotal role in the myths that shaped Egypt. These gods were not mere figures in a story, but embodiments of the forces that governed life: fertility, magic, chaos, and devotion. Osiris, the eldest, was said to be born under the stars, his presence a promise of life and renewal. Isis, his sister and wife, carried the spark of wisdom and magic in her eyes. Set, fierce and restless, was a storm waiting to break, while Nephthys, quiet and loyal, walked in the shadows of her kin. Together, these 4, along with Autumn, Shu, Tefnut, Jeb, and Nut, formed Ennead, the 9 gods who held the world in balance. Can you see them, gathered in the half-light of creation? Their FORMS letter 1791, but the story of the Ennead is far from peaceful. A shadow looms over this divine family, one that will tear them apart with jealousy and betrayal. What could drive gods to turn against one another, and what would their conflict mean for the land of Egypt? As the night deepens, let the tale carry you forward into a world where love and ambition collide under the watchful stars. The world has taken its first breaths, born from the separation of Jeb and Nut, the earth and sky, held apart by Shu's gentle yet unyielding strength. Picture the scene now as the twilight deepens. Nut, the sky goddess, stretches across the heavens, her body a vast dome of deep blue, speckled with stars that flicker like the dreams of the gods. Below her lies Jeb, the earth god, his form the rolling sands and fertile fields, his laughter the low rumble of the earth itself. The air between them hums with Shu's presence, a warm breeze that carries the scent of the Nile and the promise of life. This is the world as the Egyptians knew it, a delicate balance, a sacred space carved from the chaos of none, where the love of earth and sky gave birth to the rhythms of existence. But this balance was fragile. And the story of Jeb and Nut is not just one of creation, but of longing, sacrifice, and the divine forces that shaped the world we know. Let the soft cadence of this tale guide you, as if carried on the Nile's gentle current, into the heart of their story. In the temples of ancient Egypt, where priests burned incense and chanted hymns to the rising sun, the story of Jeb and Nut was told with reverence, for they were more than gods, they were the very fabric of the world. Jeb was the earth, his body the black silt of the Nile's floodplains, the red sands of the desert, the rugged cliffs that guarded the valley. His presence was felt in every harvest, every stone laid in a temple, every footstep on the warm ground. The Egyptians saw him as a father generous yet unpredictable, his moods reflected in the quaking of the earth or the bounty of the fields. Can you imagine him now, stretched out beneath the heavens, his green skin flecked with the colors of life, emerald fields, golden sands, and the dark veins of rivers cutting through his body? His heart beat in the land itself, a pulse that sustained the people who would one day call Egypt home. Above him, Nut reigned as the sky, her form a breathtaking expanse of starlight and twilight. To the Egyptians, she was the mother of all, her body the vault of heaven that sheltered the world. At night, her starry cloak draped low, each star a story, a god, or a soul traveling through the cosmos. By day, she glowed with the light of Ra, the sun god, who would soon take his place in her embrace. The priests taught that Nut swallowed the sun each evening, giving birth to it again at dawn, a cycle that mirrored the eternal renewal of life. Picture her now, arched over the earth, her fingers brushing the horizon, her eyes watching over the world with a mother's tenderness. Her beauty was boundless, yet her separation from Jeb was a wound that never fully healed, a longing that colored the heavens with the hues of dawn and dusk. The separation of Jeb and Nut, forced by Shu at Autumn's command, was a moment of cosmic necessity, but it was not without pain. The myths tell of Jeb's cries, his voice shaking the mountains as he reached for Nut, his beloved, now held beyond his grasp. Nut, too, yearned for her brother and lover, her stars twinkling like tears in the night sky. Yet their parting was the foundation of the world. The space between them, filled by Shu's air, became the realm where life could flourish, where birds could soar, where crops could grow, where humanity could walk. This was the Egyptian understanding of balance, not a static harmony, but a dynamic tension, a love so powerful it shaped the world even in its sacrifice. Can you feel that tension now, the pull between earth and sky, the ache that lingers in the space between them? The priests of Heliopolis wove this story into their rituals, honoring Jeb and Nut as the parents of the gods who would soon walk the earth. Nut, in particular, was revered as a protector, her starry body a map for the dead as they journeyed through the afterlife. The Egyptians painted her image on the lids of sarcophagi, her form embracing the deceased, guiding them to the stars. Jeb, too, was sacred, his body the land that sustained life, his presence invoked in prayers for fertility and stability. Together, they were the foundation of the Ennead, their children, Osiris, Isis, Set, and Nephthys, destined to inherit their legacy. But the birth of these gods was not without its own drama, for the myths whisper of a curse, a moment when the balance of creation teetered on the edge of chaos. According to one tale, Ra, the sun god who would soon rise to prominence, grew wary of Nut's power. As the mother of the sky, she was fertile, her womb ready to bear the next generation of gods. But Ra, in his wisdom or his fear, declared that Nut could not give birth on any day of the year. Imagine Nut's despair, her starry body trembling with the weight of her unborn children, unable to bring them into the world. Yet the gods are not so easily bound. Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom, took pity on Nut and devised a plan. He challenged the moon to a game of dice, wagering for its light. Thoth's cunning prevailed, and he won 5 extra days, days that existed outside Ra's decree. These became the epigonal days, the 5 days added to the Egyptian calendar, and on each one Nut gave birth to her children: Osiris, Horus the Elder, Set, Isis, and Nephthys. Picture those 5 days now, the sky glowing with a strange, otherworldly light as Nut's labor reshaped the cosmos. Each child emerged as a god, their cries echoing across the heavens, their destinies already written in the stars. Osiris, born first, carried the promise of life and renewal. Isis, his sister, shone with the light of magic and wisdom. Set, fierce and wild, was a storm in the making, his heart already restless. Nephthys, quiet and gentle, was a shadow to her siblings, yet her loyalty would prove profound. And Horus, the eldest, was a protector, his eyes sharp as a falcon's. These gods, born in defiance of Ra's will, would carry the story of Egypt forward, their lives intertwined with the land, the people, and the eternal dance of earth and sky. The story of Geb and Nut is one of love and sacrifice, of creation born from separation. Their legacy is the world itself, a place where the earth reaches for the sky, where the stars whisper of ancient loves and ancient losses. As you drift deeper into this tale, let the image of Nut's starry embrace linger, a reminder of the gods who watch over us still. But what of Ra, the sun god whose decree sought to bind Nut's power? What drove him to such an act, and how would his own story shape the fate of Egypt? Let the gentle rhythm of this myth carry you forward, as the sun begins its journey across the sky. The world now breathes beneath Nut's starry canopy, her form arched over Geb's fertile earth, held apart by Shu's gentle winds. The Ennead is growing, with Osiris, Isis, Set, and Nephthys born into the cosmos, their destinies waiting to unfold. But above them all, one god begins to shine brighter, his light casting order over the newborn world. Picture the horizon at dawn, where the first golden rays pierce the twilight, warming the Nile's banks and gilding the sands. This is Ra, the sun god, the radiant heart of Egyptian mythology, whose journey across the sky would define the rhythm of life itself. His story is one of power, vigilance, and the eternal cycle of light and darkness, a tale told in every temple, from the sun-soaked stones of Heliopolis to the shadowed sanctuaries of Thebes. As you settle deeper into this narrative, let the warmth of Ra's light envelop you, carrying you back to a time when the sun was not just a star, but a god who sailed the heavens. Ra was no ordinary deity, even among the Ennead. To the Egyptians, he was the source of life, the creator who sustained the world with his brilliance. Some said he was born of autumn, or perhaps was autumn himself in a new form, his power concentrated into the blazing orb of the sun. Others whispered that Ra emerged from a lotus flower, rising from the waters of Nun at the dawn of time, his petals unfurling to reveal a child god whose eyes burned with divine fire. Can you see him now, stepping from that lotus, his golden skin gleaming, his presence so radiant that the darkness of Nun fled before him? His crown was the solar disk, encircled by a serpent, a symbol of his authority and his fierce protection. Ra was not just light, he was order, truth, and the force that held chaos at bay. Each morning, Ra began his journey across the sky, sailing in his solar bark, a magnificent boat woven from light and magic. The Egyptians called it the Manjet, the boat of millions of years, and it carried Ra from the eastern horizon to the west, tracing the arc of the day. Picture that boat now, its prow cutting through the clouds, its sails catching the winds of Shu, its deck alive with lesser gods who served Ra, Thoth with his ibis head, charting the course, Maat, goddess of truth, balancing the scales of order, and Horus, his falcon eyes scanning the horizon for threats. The journey was not a mere passage, but a sacred act, for Ra's light brought life to the fields, warmed the Nile's waters, and gave hope to the people below. Every sunrise was a victory, a promise that the world would endure another day. But Ra's journey was not without peril. The sky was a battlefield, and beyond the horizon lurked Apophis, the serpent of chaos, a monstrous force born from the depths of Nun. Apophis was the antithesis of Ra, a creature of darkness and disorder who sought to swallow the sun and plunge the world into eternal night. Each day, as Ra sailed, Apophis rose from the underworld, its coils vast enough to encircle the heavens, its eyes glowing with malice. The priests told of battles fought in the unseen realms, where Ra and his companions faced the serpent with courage and cunning. Can you imagine the tension of those moments, the sun faltering as Apophis's jaws loomed, only for Ra's light to prevail, burning away the darkness? These battles were not mere myths but the heartbeat of the Egyptian world, a reminder that order was fragile, won only through vigilance. At night, Ra's journey continued through the Jewett, the underworld, where he sailed in the Mesektet, the night bark. This was a realm of shadows, where the souls of the dead awaited judgment and dangers lurked in every corner. The Egyptians believed Ra's passage through the Jewett was as vital as his daytime journey, for it brought light to the underworld, renewing the spirits of the deceased. Picture Ra now, his boat gliding through caverns of darkness, his light a beacon for the lost. The gods of the underworld, Anubis with his jackal head, and Osiris, lord of the dead, stood watch, ensuring Ra's safe passage. Each dawn, when Ra emerged victorious, the world rejoiced, for his rebirth meant the cycle of life would continue. Ra's reign was not just cosmic but earthly, for he was the divine king, the first pharaoh in the myths of old. The Egyptians believed he once ruled Egypt directly, walking among mortals, his decrees shaping the land. Temples rose in his honor, their obelisks piercing the sky like rays of stone, their altars warmed by the sun's touch. In Heliopolis, the center of his worship, priests offered hymns and incense, their voices rising like the dawn. Ra's power was absolute, yet it was not unchallenged. The gods of the Ennead, his own kin, watched him with awe and, at times, ambition. Isis, his great-granddaughter, was already weaving plans, her mind sharp as a blade, her heart set on secrets only Ra possessed. Can you sense the undercurrent of tension, the whispers of envy among the gods, even as Ra's light bathed the world? The Egyptians saw Ra not just as a god, but as the embodiment of Ma'at, the principle of truth, balance, and order. Every sunrise was a reaffirmation of Ma'at, a victory over chaos. Yet the myths hint at Ra's growing weariness, for even a god could tire of eternal vigilance. The battles with Apophis, the weight of ruling both heaven and earth, began to take their toll. The priests spoke of Ra's secret name, a word of power so great that it held the essence of his being. To know it was to wield his strength, and this secret would soon become the spark of divine intrigue. As you drift deeper into this tale, let Ra's golden light linger in your mind, a beacon of order in a world of shadows. But what happens when a god's power is coveted, when even the sun can be betrayed? Let the gentle rhythm of this story carry you forward, as Ra's boat sails toward a moment of treachery. The sun rises once more, Ra's golden bark gliding across Nut's starry sky, his light bathing the Nile in warmth and promise. The world breathes in rhythm with his journey, the fields of Geb flourishing, the people of Egypt offering prayers to the god who sustains them. Yet, beneath this radiant order, a shadow stirs, not the chaos of Apophis, but something subtler, born of ambition and cunning within the divine family itself. Picture the scene now. Ra, resplendent in his solar crown, stands at the helm of his bark, his eyes scanning the horizon, unaware that one of his own kin watches him with a mind sharp as obsidian and a heart burning with desire. This is the story of Isis, the goddess of magic, whose quest for power would challenge even the might of the sun god. As you settle deeper into this tale, let the gentle lapping of the Nile's waters guide you, carrying you into a story of divine intrigue, where loyalty and betrayal dance under the eternal sun. Isis was no ordinary goddess. Born of Nut and Geb, she was the sister and wife of Osiris, a figure of wisdom and grace whose beauty rivaled the dawn. Her name, meaning throne, marked her as the mother of kings, but it was her mastery of magic that set her apart. To the Egyptians, Isis was the weaver of spells, the keeper of secrets, her voice capable of bending the forces of creation itself. Can you see her now, standing on the banks of the Nile, her robes flowing like moonlight, her eyes gleaming with a quiet intensity? Her hands traced symbols in the air, her words whispered incantations that made the reeds tremble and the stars pause in their dance. Isis was not content to merely worship Ra's light. She sought to understand its source, to hold the power that made the sun god supreme. Ra, for all his radiance, carried a secret so profound that it defined his very being, his true name. In Egyptian belief, a name was not just a word but the essence of existence, a key to one's soul and strength. Ra's secret name was the source of his dominion, the spark that fueled his light, his victories over Apophis, and his rule over gods and mortals alike. To know it was to wield his power, to command the sun itself. The priests of Heliopolis guarded this mystery, whispering it only in the deepest sanctuaries, but Isis, with her insatiable curiosity, could not resist its allure. Picture her mind working, a labyrinth of plans and possibilities, as she gazed at Ra's bark crossing the sky. What could drive a goddess to challenge the king of the gods, and what price would she pay for such ambition? The myth of Isis's betrayal is one of cunning, not violence. She did not raise a weapon against Ra or summon armies to defy him. Instead, she turned to the very magic that defined her. The story tells of how Ra, in his old age, had grown weary, his body no longer as radiant as in the days of creation. As he sailed across the sky, droplets of his saliva fell to the earth, unnoticed by the god but seen by Isis's keen eyes. These droplets were no mere spittle but fragments of divine essence, imbued with Ra's power. Isis gathered them carefully, her hands trembling with the weight of what she held. Can you imagine her now, kneeling in the soft earth, her fingers collecting the golden droplets, each one pulsing with the light of the sun? She knew that within them lay the key to Ra's secret, a path to power that could reshape the cosmos. With her magic, Isis crafted a serpent, not a creature of chaos like Apophis, but a delicate, venomous being born of Ra's own essence. She placed it in the path of his solar bark, where it lay coiled among the reeds, its scales glinting like molten gold. As Ra passed, unaware, the serpent struck, its venom searing through his divine flesh. The pain was unlike anything Ra had known, a burning that dimmed his light and shook his very being. Picture the chaos of that moment. Ra, the unyielding sun, faltering in his boat, his cries echoing across the heavens, the gods aboard the manjet frozen in shock. The world below trembled, for if the sun god fell, darkness would claim the earth. Isis, watching from afar, felt no triumph, only the weight of her plan unfolding, a plan that balanced on the edge of divine betrayal. Ra's agony drew the gods to his side, Thoth with his wisdom, Horus with his strength, Maat with her balance, but none could ease his suffering. The venom, born of his own essence, was beyond their power to heal. Isis approached, her face a mask of concern, her heart racing with purpose. She offered her magic, her voice soft and soothing, promising relief if Ra would reveal his secret name. At first, Ra resisted, his pride as bright as his light, but the pain was relentless, gnawing at his divinity. Can you feel his struggle? The god who had battled Apophis now brought low by a serpent of his own making. In desperation, he relented, whispering his true name to Isis alone, a word so powerful it seemed to shake the stars. With that name, Isis wove her spell, drawing the venom from Ra's body, restoring his light. But the exchange was not without cost. The secret name gave Isis a share of Ra's power, elevating her among the gods, her magic now rivaling the sun itself. She did not overthrow Ra, for her ambition was not to rule but to protect, to ensure the strength of her family, especially her beloved Osiris and their future son. Hor let the image of Isis linger, her form radiant with newfound power, her eyes fixed on a future only she could see. But what would this power mean for the Ennead, and how would Ra's trust, once broken, reshape the divine family? Let the soft whispers of this tale draw you deeper, as a shadow of jealousy begins to stir among the gods. The sun of Ra burns brightly once more, his light restored by Isis's cunning magic, though the shadow of her betrayal lingers in the heavens. The Ennead, the divine family, now pulses with tension, as power shifts and ambitions simmer beneath the surface. Yet amidst this celestial drama, one god steps forward, his presence as steady as the Nile's flow, his heart bound to the land and its people. This is Osiris, firstborn of Nut and Geb, the god whose name would echo through the ages as the bringer of life, the teacher of civilization, and the lord of renewal. Picture him now, standing tall on the banks of the Nile, his skin green as the fertile fields, his eyes gentle yet resolute, holding the crook and flail of kingship. His story is one of benevolence, of gifts given freely to humanity, but also of a looming darkness that will test the bonds of the divine family. As you drift into the soothing rhythm of this tale, let the warm earth beneath Osiris's feet ground you, carrying you into a world where gods walked among mortals. Osiris was unlike his great-grandfather Ra, whose radiance commanded the heavens. He was a god of the earth, tied to the cycles of growth and decay, to the floodwaters that brought life to the desert. To the Egyptians, Osiris was the embodiment of fertility, the spirit of the grain that sprouted from Jeb's soil, the force that turned barren sand into fields of barley and emmer wheat. His form was regal, wrapped in white linen, his crown adorned with ostrich feathers, symbols of truth and justice. Can you see him now, walking through the early villages of Egypt, his steps leaving trails of green where the earth had been dry? His voice was soft but commanding, teaching the people the secrets of the land, how to sow seeds, how to harness the Nile's floods, how to build a life from the gifts of the earth. The myths tell of a golden age when Osiris ruled as the first divine king, a time when Egypt was young, and its people were learning to thrive in the harsh embrace of the desert. Osiris was no distant deity. He walked among them, his wife Isis at his side, their bond a beacon of harmony. Together, they brought order to a land still raw from creation. Isis, with her magic, wove spells to protect the crops, while Osiris taught the people to plow, to irrigate, to store grain against the lean years. He gave them laws, not of force but of balance, rooted in the principle of Ma'at, truth, justice, and harmony. Picture the villages along the Nile, their mud brick homes glowing in the evening light, the laughter of children mingling with the songs of laborers, all under Osiris's watchful gaze. This was a time of peace, when the gods and mortals lived as one. Osiris's gifts were not just practical but sacred. He taught the Egyptians to honor the cycles of life, to see the divine in the sprouting seed, the ripening grain, the flood that renewed the land. In his honor, they built altars of stone and reed, offering the first fruits of their harvest. The priests spoke of Osiris as the barley god, his body the grain that died in the earth only to rise again, a symbol of eternal renewal. Can you feel the rhythm of that cycle, the planting and reaping, the flood and drought, all tied to Osiris's presence? His teachings were a bridge between the divine and the mortal, a promise that life would endure, just as the Nile returned each year to nourish the land. Yet, Osiris's benevolence was not without its shadows. His brother Set, born in the same moment under Nut's starry sky, watched him with eyes that burned not with love but with envy. Set was the god of the desert, of storms and chaos, his heart as restless as the sands that devoured the unwary. Where Osiris brought order, Set thrived in disruption. Where Osiris sowed life, Set saw only power to be seized. The myths whisper of Set's growing resentment, his laughter sharp as a storm's edge, his gaze fixed on Osiris's throne. Can you sense the tension building, like a gathering storm over the desert, its winds whispering of conflict to come? Set was not content to stand in his brother's shadow, and his ambition would soon tear the divine family apart. Isis, ever vigilant, sensed the danger in Set's heart. Her magic was a shield for Osiris, her love a fortress, yet even she could not see the full depth of her brother's plans. Osiris, trusting and generous, believed in the unity of the Ennead, blind to the storm brewing within his own kin. The Egyptians told of feasts where Osiris and Set sat together, their laughter echoing through the halls, but beneath the surface, Set's mind was already plotting. He measured Osiris's form, noting every detail, his thoughts as precise and cold as a craftsman's chisel. What could drive a god to betray his brother, to shatter the harmony of a golden age? The answer lay not just in envy, but in the very nature of the world Osiris had built, a world too perfect, too ordered for a god of chaos to endure. The priests of Egypt wove Osiris's story into their rituals, seeing him as more than a king, but as the soul of the land itself. His green skin, his gentle eyes, his gifts of grain and law were symbols of a divine promise. That life would persist, that order would prevail. Yet the shadow of Set loomed ever closer, a reminder that even in a world of divine gifts, darkness could creep in. As you drift deeper into this tale, let the image of Osiris linger, his form radiant against the Nile's banks, his hands sowing the seeds of life, unaware of the betrayal that waits. What would happen when Set's envy turned to action, when the god of chaos struck at the heart of order? Let the soft current of this story carry you forward, as the Nile carries its waters into a moment of divine treachery. The Nile flows gently now, its waters reflecting the golden light of Ra's sun, while Osiris, the god of life, walks among the people, his gifts of grain and law weaving a tapestry of harmony across the land. The fields bloom under his care, the villages hum with gratitude, and Isis, his beloved, guards him with her magic. Yet in the shadows of this golden age, a storm brews, its winds born not of the sky, but of a heart consumed by envy. Set, the god of chaos, brother to Osiris, stands apart, his eyes like embers in the desert night, his soul restless as the sands that devour the unwary. The divine family, once united under the starry canopy of Nut, now teeters on the edge of fracture. Picture the scene. A feast hall glowing with torchlight, laughter echoing, but beneath it all, a sinister plan taking shape. As you settle into the soothing cadence of this tale, let the warm earth of Egypt ground you, carrying you into a story of betrayal that would shake the foundations of the gods. Set was a god unlike his siblings. Born of Nut and Jeb, he was the storm to Osiris's calm, the desert to his fertile fields. His domain was the red sands, the tempests that tore through the land, the chaos that lurked beyond the Nile's embrace. To the Egyptians, Set was both protector and destroyer, a force who could fend off Apophis in Ra's service yet sow discord among his own kin. His form was fearsome, tall and lean, with a strange, animal-like head, perhaps a jackal or aardvark, his eyes sharp and unyielding. Can you see him now, standing at the edge of the feast, his laughter sharp as a blade, his gaze fixed on Osiris, who sits at the head of the table, beloved by all? Set's heart was a furnace of ambition, his envy a fire that burned hotter with every hymn sung to his brother's name. The myths tell of a time when Set's resentment could no longer be contained. Osiris, as the divine king, ruled with a benevolence that won the hearts of gods and mortals alike. His throne was not just a seat of power, but a symbol of Ma'at, the balance and truth that held the world together. Yet, to Set, it was a mockery, a reminder of his own secondary place in the Ennead. Why should Osiris, his elder brother, be revered as the bringer of life, while Set was relegated to the barren deserts? The priests of Egypt whispered that Set's envy was not mere jealousy, but a rebellion against the order Osiris embodied, a desire to reshape the world in his own chaotic image. Picture his mind working, calculating, as he watched Osiris raise a cup of wine, his smile radiant, unaware of the storm gathering in his brother's heart. Set's plan was as cunning as it was cruel. He did not challenge Osiris openly, for even a god of chaos knew the power of his brother's love among the people. Instead, he crafted a trap so precise it seemed woven by fate itself. The myths speak of a magnificent chest, a sarcophagus of cedar and gold, inlaid with ivory and lapis lazuli, its beauty rivaling the treasures of the gods. Set had it made to Osiris's exact measurements, every curve and angle perfect, as if it were a throne rather than a tomb. Can you imagine the craftsmanship, the wood polished to a mirror's sheen, the jewels glinting in the torchlight? Set presented it at a grand feast, his voice smooth as he proposed a game. Whoever could fit perfectly within the chest would claim it as a prize. The gods laughed, delighted by the challenge, unaware of the darkness behind Set's smile. One by one, the gods tried the chest, their forms too large or too small, their laughter filling the hall. Osiris, ever gracious, took his turn, urged by the cheers of his kin. He lay within the chest, his body fitting as if it were made for him, because it was. Before he could rise, Set and his conspirators slammed the lid shut, sealing it with molten lead and magic so strong even Isis's spells could not break it. Picture the moment, the hall falling silent, the gods frozen in shock, Osiris's muffled cries fading as Set's laughter rang out, cold and triumphant. The chest was cast into the Nile, its golden surface swallowed by the dark waters, carrying Osiris away from the world he had nurtured. The betrayal was complete, but its consequences rippled through the divine family. Isis, sensing the treachery, let out a wail that shook the heavens, her magic flaring like a storm. The people of Egypt wept, their fields seeming to wither in Osiris's absence. Set declared himself king, his throne built on treachery, his rule a mockery of Ma'at. Yet the chest did not sink into oblivion. The myths tell of its journey down the Nile, carried by the river's current to the shores of Byblos, where it lodged in a tamarisk tree, hidden from the world. Can you see it now, the golden chest cradled by the tree's branches, its divine occupant silent but not lost, a spark of life waiting to be reclaimed? The priests of Egypt told this story with heavy hearts, for Osiris's death was not just the loss of a god, but the shattering of the harmony he had built. Set's act was a wound in the cosmos, a challenge to the order that Ra and Osiris had upheld. Yet Isis's love was stronger than betrayal, her magic deeper than Set's chaos. As you drift deeper into this tale, let the image of that chest linger, floating on the Nile's dark waters, a symbol of hope amidst despair. What would Isis do to reclaim her beloved, and how would her quest reshape the destiny of the gods? Let the gentle rhythm of this story carry you forward, as a storm gathers on the horizon, threatening the very heart of Egypt. The Nile carries the golden chest of Osiris far from the heart of Egypt, its gleaming surface lost to the dark waters, a god entombed by his brother's treachery. Set, the storm god, sits upon a stolen throne, his laughter sharp as the desert wind, while the land mourns the absence of its beloved king. Yet in this moment of despair, one figure stands unyielding, her heart aflame that no darkness can extinguish. This is Isis, goddess of magic, wife of Osiris, whose love and power would defy death itself. Picture her now, standing on the river's edge, her robes flowing like moonlight, her eyes searching the horizon with a fierce determination. Her magic hums in the air, a melody of hope and resolve, as she begins a quest that will echo through the ages. As you sink deeper into the soothing rhythm of this tale, let the gentle lapping of the Nile guide you, carrying you into a story of devotion, sacrifice, and the unbreakable will of a goddess. Isis was no mere consort to Osiris. She was his equal, a goddess whose name meant throne, the very seat of divine power. To the Egyptians, she was the mother of magic, her spells woven from the secrets of creation, her voice capable of bending fate itself. Her beauty was not just in her form, though she was radiant, with eyes like the stars of Nut's sky, but in her wisdom, her cunning, her unyielding loyalty. Can you see her now, her hands tracing sigils in the air, her lips whispering incantations that make the reeds tremble? She was the protector of the Ennead, the one who had outwitted Ra himself to claim his secret name. Now, with Osiris stolen from her, her magic burned brighter, fueled by a love that could challenge even the gods of death. The myths tell of Isis's search, a journey that began the moment she felt Osiris's absence, a void in her soul as vast as the desert. She did not weep idly. Her grief was a call to action. With her sister Nephthys, loyal despite her marriage to Set, Isis roamed the Nile's banks, her senses attuned to the faintest trace of her beloved. The river whispered secrets to her, its currents guiding her path. The Egyptians revered this image of Isis, the wandering goddess, her footsteps blessing the land, her tears mingling with the Nile's waters. Picture her now, a lone figure in the twilight, her magic a soft glow that lights her way, her heart fixed on a single purpose: to find Osiris, to bring him back, to restore the balance he embodied. Her search led her far from Egypt, to the distant shores of Byblos, where the Nile had carried the chest. There, in a strange land, the myths say the chest had lodged in a tamarisk tree, its golden surface entwined with the tree's roots, hidden from mortal eyes. The tree grew tall and sacred, its branches cradling Osiris's tomb, and the king of Byblos, unaware of its divine cargo, had it cut down to form a pillar in his palace. Isis, guided by her magic, sensed Osiris's presence and came to the court disguised as a mortal woman, her divine radiance softened to blend with the crowd. Can you imagine her there, moving through the bustling palace, her eyes scanning for the faintest sign of her beloved, her heart pounding with hope and dread? Isis's cunning shone in Byblos. She did not demand the pillar but wove herself into the lives of the royal family, becoming nursemaid to the king's child. Her kindness won their trust, and in time, she revealed her true nature, her form glowing with divine light. The king and queen, awestruck, granted her the pillar, and within it she found the chest untouched, its magic preserving Osiris's body. Picture the moment: Isis, alone with the chest, her hands trembling as she opened it, her tears falling onto Osiris's still face. He was dead, yet his divine essence lingered, a spark that her magic could reach. With Nephthys' help, she carried the chest back to Egypt, hiding it in the marshes of the Nile Delta, where the reeds would guard it from Set's prying eyes. But Isis's work was not done. Her magic, vast as it was, could not simply restore Osiris to life, for death was a realm governed by other gods. Instead, she wove a spell of preservation, transforming Osiris's body into the first mummy, his form wrapped in linen, anointed with sacred oils, his spirit held in a liminal state between life and death. Can you see her now, in a hidden grove, her hands moving with precision, her voice chanting spells that echo through the night? This act was the birth of mummification, a ritual the Egyptians would practice for millennia, believing it preserved the soul for the afterlife, just as Isis preserved Osiris. Yet Set's chaos was never far. The myths tell of his discovery of the chest, his rage, and a storm that tore through the marshes. In a final act of cruelty, he dismembered Osiris's body, scattering the pieces across Egypt, each one a wound to the land itself. Isis's heart broke anew, but her resolve did not falter. With Nephthys, Anubis, and Thoth at her side, she began a second quest, to gather Osiris's fragments and make him whole. Each piece she found, 14 in all, the myths say, was a testament to her unyielding love, a journey across the land to reclaim her husband's body and soul. Picture her now, sailing the Nile, her boat gliding through the dawn, each fragment of Osiris a step closer to his resurrection. The land itself seemed to mourn with her, the Nile's waters heavy with grief, as Isis wove her spells under the starlit sky. But what did it mean to defy death itself? Isis's magic was powerful, but Set's treachery had torn the divine family apart, and the pieces of Osiris were scattered like stars fallen from Nut's sky. Could even the mother of magic undo such a crime, or would the gods face a reckoning for Set's betrayal? As you drift deeper into this tale, let the image of Isis linger, her hands glowing with power, her heart burning with love, as she seeks to restore the god who brought life to Egypt. What would her magic unleash, and what new god would rise from her efforts? Let the gentle rhythm of this story carry you forward, as the Nile carries Isis toward her destiny. The Nile's waters ripple with the weight of Isis's grief, each wave carrying the echo of her tireless quest to reclaim the fragments of Osiris, her beloved, torn apart by Set's cruel hand. In hidden groves and sacred marshes, Isis's magic has worked miracles, gathering the pieces of her husband, weaving spells to preserve his divine essence. Yet the land of Egypt trembles under Set's rule, his chaotic reign a storm that threatens to unravel the harmony Osiris once nurtured. Amid this turmoil, a new light emerges, born of love and defiance, a child destined to challenge the darkness. This is Horus, the falcon-headed god, son of Isis and Osiris, whose sharp eyes and unyielding spirit would become the avenger of his father. Picture him now, a young god rising from the reeds, his wings catching the dawn's first light, his gaze fixed on a throne stolen by treachery. As you sink deeper into the soothing cadence of this tale, let the warm winds of the Nile carry you, guiding you into a story of vengeance, justice, and the eternal struggle between order and chaos. Horus was no ordinary child, even among the gods. Conceived through Isis's magic after Osiris's death, his birth was a miracle, a testament to his mother's power over life and death. The myths tell of Isis hiding in the papyrus marshes of the Delta, her spells cloaking her from Set's wrath. There, in a secret nest woven of reeds and magic, she brought Horus into being, his form radiant with his father's strength and his mother's wisdom. Can you see him now, a child god with the head of a falcon, his eyes sharp as the sun, his cries echoing like the call of a bird soaring over the Nile? The Egyptians revered him as the protector, the rightful heir, the one who would restore Maat, the balance and truth that Set had shattered. Isis raised Horus in secrecy, her magic a shield against Set's spies. The marshes were a world of their own, alive with the hum of insects, the rustle of reeds, and the soft glow of Isis's spells. She taught Horus the ways of the gods, whispering tales of Osiris's golden age, of the fields that bloomed under his care, of the love that bound them. But she also taught him of Set's treachery, of the chest and the dismemberment, of a throne stolen through betrayal. Horus grew strong, his wings broad, his heart burning with a quiet resolve. Picture him training in the shadows, his talons sharpening, his eyes learning to see through deception, guided by Isis's voice and the memory of a father he never knew. Can you feel the weight of his destiny, the burden of a child born to avenge a god? When Horus came of age, he stepped from the marshes, his falcon form soaring into the sky, a challenge to Set's rule. The Egyptians saw him as the sky itself, his right eye the sun, his left the moon, watching over the world with unyielding vigilance. His claim to the throne was not just a matter of birthright, but a cosmic necessity, for Set's reign was a wound in the fabric of Maat. The land suffered under his storms, the Nile's floods grew erratic, and the people whispered of a time when order would return. Horus, with Isis at his side, confronted Set before the Ennead, demanding the throne of Egypt. Can you imagine the scene? The gods gathered in a celestial court, Ra presiding with weary eyes, Set's laughter sharp and defiant, Horus standing tall, his voice steady as he claimed his father's legacy. The conflict between Horus and Set was no mere dispute but a cosmic struggle, a battle between order and chaos that would shape Egypt's soul. The myths tell of contests, not of swords, but of cunning and strength. In one tale, Ra, torn between his kin, proposed a challenge. Horus and Set would transform into hippopotamuses and dive into the Nile, remaining submerged for 3 months. The one who endured would prove their worth. Isis, ever protective, wove a spell to ensure Horus's victory, but her interference angered Ra, who demanded fairness. Picture the Nile churning as the two gods dove, their massive forms hidden beneath the waves, the tension of the gods above palpable. Who would emerge, and what would it mean for the throne? Another myth speaks of a boat race, where Horus and Set crafted vessels to prove their dominion. Set built his of stone, heavy and unyielding, a symbol of his brute force. Horus, guided by Isis's wisdom, crafted his wood painted to look like stone, light and swift. When the race began, Set's boat sank, while Horus's glided across the water, a triumph of cunning over strength. Can you see the boats now, Horus skimming the Nile, Set sinking beneath its weight, the gods cheering or scowling from the shore? Yet, Set's rage only grew, his chaos spilling over into violence, threatening the very balance of the cosmos. The struggle was not just physical but deeply symbolic. Horus was the avenger, the restorer of Maat, while Set embodied the chaos that sought to undo it. The Egyptians saw their conflict in the cycles of nature, the sun's triumph over the night, the Nile's flood over the desert, the harvest over famine. Yet the battle was not easily won. Set's power was vast, his cunning matched only by Isis's, and Ennead wavered, torn between loyalty to Ra's order and fear of Set's wrath. As Horus fought, his mother's magic remained his shield, her spells a whisper in the wind, guiding him through each trial. But the cost of this struggle was yet to be revealed, a price paid in divine blood and sacred wounds. Let the image of Horus linger, his falcon wings spread against the dawn, his eyes fixed on Set's throne. What would it cost to restore his father's legacy, and what wound would mark the avenger forever? Let the gentle rhythm of this tale carry you forward, as the battle for Egypt's soul reaches its peak. The Nile churns with the echoes of Horus's battles, his falcon wings cutting through the sky as he faces Set, the usurper, in a cosmic struggle for the throne of Egypt. The Ennead watches, their divine hearts torn between order and chaos, while Isis weaves her spells to protect her son, the avenger of Osiris. The land itself seems to hold its breath, its fields and rivers trembling under the weight of this divine conflict. Yet, the tale now turns to a moment of profound sacrifice, a wound that would mark Horus forever and give birth to one of Egypt's most enduring symbols. Picture the scene. Horus, his eyes blazing like the sun and moon, locked in combat with Set, their forms clashing in a storm of divine fury. This is the story of the Eye of Horus, a tale of loss, restoration, and the sacred power that would protect Egypt for millennia. As you drift deeper into the soothing cadence of this narrative, let the gentle rustle of the Nile's reeds guide you, carrying you into a story that binds the gods to the mortal world. Horus, the falcon-headed god, was the embodiment of kingship, his right eye the sun, his left the moon, their light a symbol of his divine right to rule. To the Egyptians, eyes were not mere organs but windows to the soul, vessels of power and protection. Horus's eyes watched over the world, their gaze piercing the chaos that Set unleashed. But in their struggle, Set's ferocity knew no bounds. The myths tell of a battle so fierce it shook the heavens, where Set, driven by rage and desperation, struck at Horus with a ferocity that even the gods feared. Can you see them now, clashing on the banks of the Nile, Horus's wings beating against the storm of Set's chaos, the air crackling with divine energy? In a moment of treachery, Set's hand, or some say his spear, found Horus's left eye, tearing it from his face, a wound that dimmed the moon itself. The loss of Horus's eye was no mere injury, it was a cosmic calamity. The moon, his left eye, flickered in the night sky, its light weakened, a sign to the people below that mat, the balance of the world was faltering. The Egyptians believed this wound reverberated through the land, the harvests thinning, the nights growing darker. Horus, though wounded, did not falter. His resolve burned brighter, his remaining eye fixed on Set, his heart fueled by the memory of Osiris's murder. Picture him now, bloodied but unbowed, his falcon form soaring above the Nile, his single eye blazing with defiance. The gods of the Ennead gasped, Ra's light dimmed in sorrow, and Isis, her heart breaking for her son, wove spells to staunch his pain, her magic a lifeline in the chaos. Set, in his cruelty, did not simply cast the eye aside. Some myths say he shattered it into pieces, 6 fragments, each one a portion of Horus's power, scattering them across the land or swallowing them to claim their strength. Others whisper that he buried the eye in the desert, hoping to hide it from the gods. But the divine cannot be so easily undone. Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom and writing, stepped forward, his mind as sharp as the crescent moon. Thoth, who had once won 5 extra days for Nut's children, now turned his cunning to Horus's cause. He roamed the land, his eyes scanning the sands, his magic tracing the faint pulse of Horus's lost power. Can you imagine him now, moving silently through the night, his staff glowing with lunar light, gathering the fragments of the eye like stars fallen to earth? Thoth's magic was precise, a craft as delicate as the hieroglyphs he inscribed. He pieced the eye together, his spells weaving the fragments into a whole, but the restoration was not complete. The Egyptians believed in a sacred mathematics, where the pieces of the eye, each a fraction of its power, never quite equaled the whole, a reminder of the imperfection even gods could bear. Yet Thoth's work was enough. He presented the restored eye to Horus, its surface gleaming like the moon, its power a beacon of hope. In some tales, Horus offered this eye to Osiris, a gift to his father in the underworld, granting him eternal vision and strength. In others, Horus kept the eye, its restoration a symbol of his triumph over chaos. Picture the moment. Horus, his eye restored, standing before the Ennead, his gaze now whole, the sun and moon shining together, a declaration that order would prevail. The eye of Horus, known as the Wedjat, became one of Egypt's most sacred symbolsthia, a potent amulet of protection and wholeness. The Egyptians wore its image on necklaces, painted it on coffins, carved it into temple walls, believing it could ward off evil and heal wounds. Can you see it now, the stylized eye, its bold lines and curves, a symbol of divine protection etched into the heart of Egypt? It was not just a charm, but a story in itself, a reminder of Horus's sacrifice and victory, a promise that the gods watched over them. The restoration of the eye marked a turning point in Horus's battle with Set. The Ennead, moved by his resilience and Thoth's wisdom, began to favor Horus's claim to the throne. Set's power waned, his chaos no match for the restored light of Horus's gaze. Yet the struggle was not over, for Set's cunning ran deep, and the throne of Egypt remained contested. The Eye of Horus was more than a symbol, it was a rallying cry, a sign that Ma'at could endure even the darkest betrayal. As you drift deeper into this tale, let the image of the Wedjat linger, its protective gaze watching over you like Horus himself. But what final trials awaited the falcon god, and how would his restored power shape the fate of Egypt? Let the gentle rhythm of this story carry you forward, as the light of Horus's eye pierces the shadows of chaos. The light of Horus's restored eye shines across the Nile, a beacon of hope as he battles Set for the throne of Egypt, his falcon wings carrying the promise of Maat, the divine order that holds the world in balance. Yet beneath this celestial struggle, another realm stirs, a place of shadows and silence where the souls of the departed begin their journey. Here, in the twilight of the underworld, a solemn figure watches, his eyes gleaming with quiet wisdom, his presence both fearsome and comforting. This is Anubis, the jackal-headed god, guardian of the dead, master of the sacred rites that bridge life and eternity. Picture him now, standing in the cool darkness of a tomb, his black fur blending with the shadows, his hands gentle as he tends to the souls entrusted to him. As you settle deeper into the soothing cadence of this tale, let the stillness of the underworld envelop you, carrying you into a story of death, not as an end, but as a transformation guided by a god's careful hands. Anubis was a figure of profound reverence in ancient Egypt, his image etched into the hearts of a people who saw death not as a void, but as a passage to another existence. Born, some say, of Nephthys and Osiris, or in other tales, of Nephthys and Set, Anubis was a god of duality, tied to both the chaos of his mother's husband and the order of his father's legacy. His jackal form was no accident. Jackals roamed the desert necropolises, their howls a haunting melody in the night, guardians of the graves that dotted the sands. Can you see him now, his sleek form moving through the twilight, his eyes sharp and knowing, his presence a quiet assurance that death was not to be feared but respected? To the Egyptians, Anubis was the protector of the dead, the one who ensured their journey was safe, their bodies preserved, their souls prepared for judgment. The art of death, as the Egyptians practiced it, was born from the myths of Osiris and Isis. When Isis gathered Osiris's scattered fragments, it was Anubis who aided her, his hands skilled in the sacred craft of mummification. The priests told of how Anubis wrapped Osiris's body in linen, anointing it with oils and resins, his chants weaving spells to preserve the divine flesh. This was the first mummification, a ritual that became the cornerstone of Egyptian belief, ensuring the soul could return to its body in the afterlife. Picture Anubis in his sacred workshop, the air heavy with the scent of myrrh and natron, his fingers deft as they wrapped the linen, each fold a prayer for eternity. Can you feel the solemnity of that moment, the quiet reverence as Anubis worked, his jackal eyes fixed on the task, knowing its weight for both gods and mortals? Anubis's role extended beyond the physical act of mummification. He was the guide of souls, leading them through the perilous paths of the Jewet, the underworld, where dangers lurked in every shadow. The Egyptians believed that death was only the beginning, a journey fraught with trials before the soul could reach the field of reeds, a paradise of eternal peace. Anubis walked beside the deceased, his presence a shield against the demons and serpents that haunted the Jewet's caverns. Can you imagine him now, leading a soul through the darkness, his staff glowing faintly, his voice a low chant that parted the shadows? He was not a judge but a guardian, ensuring the soul reached the Hall of Judgment, where Osiris, now lord of the underworld, awaited. In the Hall of Judgment, Anubis's role was most sacred. Here, the soul faced the weighing of the heart, a ritual that determined its worthiness for eternity. Anubis stood by the scales, his hands steady as he placed the heart of the deceased against the feather of Maat, the goddess of truth and balance. If the heart was light, free of sin, it balanced the feather, and the soul was granted passage to the afterlife. If heavy with guilt, it was devoured by Ammit, the monstrous eater of the dead. Picture the scene. The vast hall, its walls carved with spells, Osiris watching from his throne, Anubis's eyes calm but unyielding as he weighed the heart, the soul trembling in anticipation. Can you feel the weight of that moment, the balance between life's deeds and eternal rest? Anubis's presence was felt not just in myth, but in the daily lives of the Egyptians. Priests wearing jackal masks performed mummification, channeling Anubis's spirit as they prepared bodies for burial. Tombs were adorned with his image, his form painted on walls or carved into amulets, a protector against the chaos of death. The Egyptians called him, "He who is upon his mountain," watching over the necropolises and opener of the ways, guiding souls to their destiny. His black fur, far from ominous, was a symbol of rebirth, for black was the color of the Nile's fertile silt, the promise of life renewed. Can you see the tombs now, their entrances guarded by Anubis's image, their silence filled with his quiet strength? Yet, Anubis's story was not without its own shadows. As Horus battled Set above, Anubis worked below, his loyalty to Osiris tying him to the struggle for Maat. Some myths whisper of his complex bond with Set, his possible father, a tension that mirrored the divine family's fractures. Anubis remained steadfast, his focus on the dead unwavering, his role a reminder that even in chaos, order could be preserved. As you drift deeper into this tale, let the image of Anubis linger, his jackal eyes watching over the underworld, his hands guiding the souls of Egypt. But what lay beyond the Hall of Judgment, in the depths of the Duet, where Ra's night bark sailed and Osiris ruled? Let the gentle rhythm of this story carry you forward, as Anubis leads us into the realm of the dead. The scales of Anubis stand silent now, the heart of the soul weighed against Maat's feather, its fate decided in the solemn Hall of Judgment. Above, Horus's battle with Set rages, a clash of order and chaos that shakes the heavens, but below, a different world unfolds, a realm of shadows, secrets, and eternal renewal. This is the Duet, the underworld of Egyptian mythology, a place where the sun sails through darkness, where souls face trials, and where Osiris, the murdered god, reigns as Lord of the Dead. Picture it now. A vast, cavernous expanse, its walls shimmering with starlight glyphs, its paths winding through gates guarded by serpents and demons. The air is heavy, cool, scented with the faint echo of myrrh, and in the distance, the soft glow of Ra's night bark lights the way. As you settle deeper into the soothing rhythm of this tale, let the stillness of the Duet envelop you, carrying you into a story of the afterlife, where death is not an end but a journey guided by the gods. The Duet was no mere abyss to the Egyptians. It was a living realm, as vital as the sunlit world above. It was the path the soul took after death, a labyrinth of 12 regions, each corresponding to an hour of the night, each guarded by gates and deities who tested the soul's worth. The Duet was not beneath the earth in a physical sense, but existed in a parallel reality, a mirror of the Nile's journey, winding through caverns and rivers of darkness. Can you see it now? Its vast halls lit by flickering torches, its waters reflecting the light of Ra's bark, the Mesektet, as it sails through the underworld. The Egyptians believed that every night, Ra descended into the Duet, his light renewing the souls of the dead, his journey a promise that life persisted beyond the grave. The soul's journey through the Duet was fraught with peril. After leaving the body, guided by Anubis, the deceased faced trials that tested their purity and knowledge. The Book of the Dead, a collection of spells inscribed on papyrus, was their guide, its words a map through the underworld's dangers. Picture a soul now, clutching a scroll, whispering spells to appease the guardians, serpents with flaming eyes, crocodiles that lurked in shadowy pools, demons with names like Swallower of Sinners. Each gate required a spell, a name, or an offering, and only those who knew the sacred words could pass. Can you feel the tension? The soul's heart pounding as it faces a guardian, its voice steady as it recites the spells taught by priests in life. At the heart of the Duet sat Osiris, the resurrected god, his throne a symbol of eternal life. After Isis's magic restored his body, Osiris became the lord of the underworld, his green skin a reminder of his connection to the fertile earth, his eyes gentle yet unyielding as he judged the souls before him. The Hall of Judgment, where Anubis weighed the heart, was his domain, but his presence filled the entire Duet. The Egyptians saw him as a father to the dead, offering hope that they, too, could achieve eternal life. Picture him now, seated on a throne of ebony and gold, wrapped in mummy's linen, his crook and flail crossed over his chest, his gaze meeting each soul with compassion. To stand before Osiris was to face the truth of one's life, to be seen in all one's deeds, good and ill. Ra's journey through the Duet was as vital as the soul's. Each night, as the sun sank below the horizon, Ra entered the underworld, his bark navigating rivers of darkness, its light a beacon for the dead. The gods aboard, Anubis, Thoth, and Maat, guarded him, for even in the duet, Apophis, the serpent of chaos, lurked, seeking to swallow the sun and plunge the world into eternal night. The myths tell of battles fought in the underworld's depths, where Ra's light clashed with Apophis's coils, the outcome determining the dawn. Can you imagine the scene, the bark's golden glow cutting through the shadows, the serpent's hiss echoing as the gods chant spells to drive it back? Each sunrise was a victory, Ra's emergence a renewal of life for both the living and the dead. The duet was also a place of transformation. Souls who passed the trials could reach the field of reeds, a paradise where fields bloomed as they did along the Nile, where the dead lived in eternal peace, their souls reunited with their loved ones. This was the Egyptian dream of eternity, a life not unlike the one they knew, filled with harvests and joy under Osiris's care. The priests taught that the duet was a reflection of Egypt itself, its rivers and fields a mirror of the Nile's bounty, its trials a test of the soul's worthiness to join the gods. Can you see the field of reeds now, its golden crops swaying, its waters sparkling under an eternal sun, the souls of the righteous at peace? Yet, the duet was not without its mysteries. Some souls lingered, unable to pass the gates, their fates uncertain. The myths whisper of hidden chambers where forgotten gods dwelled, of secrets even Osiris did not know. The duet was a realm of balance, where light and darkness, life and death, coexisted in delicate harmony. As you drift deeper into this tale, let the image of Ra's bark linger, its light guiding the souls through the underworld's shadows, a promise of renewal. But what of the gods who remained above, the lesser deities who shaped Egypt's daily life? What stories did they carry, and how did their worship sustain the people? Let the gentle rhythm of this story carry you forward, as the duet fades and the world of the living calls us back. The duet fades into shadow, its caverns and rivers giving way to the golden light of Ra's sun as it rises once more over the Nile. Above, Horus continues his battle for the throne, his restored eye a symbol of hope, while Osiris reigns in the underworld, guiding souls to eternal rest. Yet, the story of Egyptian mythology is not only one of grand gods and cosmic struggles. It is also woven from the quieter threads of local worship, where lesser-known deities held sway over the hearts of the people. In the bustling cities and quiet villages along the Nile, gods like Bastet, Sekhmet, and Thoth were revered, their temples alive with offerings, their stories shaping daily life. Picture now a sunlit marketplace, the air filled with the scent of bread and incense, children laughing as priests chant to gods who felt as close as family. As you settle deeper into the soothing rhythm of this tale, let the hum of ancient Egypt's villages guide you, carrying you into a world where local gods wove magic and meaning into the fabric of existence. The Egyptians did not see their gods as distant figures, but as companions in life's joys and struggles. While Ra, Osiris, and Horus dominated the great myths, local deities were the heartbeat of communities, their cults rooted in the land's rhythms. Bastet, the cat goddess of Bubastes, was one such deity, her presence as warm and familiar as the felines that prowled homes and granaries. With the body of a woman and the head of a cat, Bastet was the protector of the home, the bringer of joy and fertility. Can you see her now, her golden eyes gleaming in the twilight, her purr a melody that soothed the weary? Her festivals were vibrant, filled with music, dance, and wine, as thousands gathered at her temple to celebrate life itself. Cats, sacred to her, were mummified and buried in her honor, their grace a reflection of her divine love. Yet, Bastet had a fiercer counterpart in Sekhmet, the lioness goddess of Memphis, whose name meant the powerful one. Sekhmet was the embodiment of divine wrath, a warrior deity whose breath was said to form the desert's scorching winds. The myths tell of a time when Ra, angered by humanity's disobedience, unleashed Sekhmet upon the world. Her fury was unstoppable, her claws tearing through the land, until Ra, fearing total destruction, tricked her by flooding the earth with beer dyed red to resemble blood. Sekhmet drank, fell into a drunken slumber, and awoke calmed, her rage transformed into healing power. Picture her now, her lioness head crowned with a solar disk, her eyes burning with controlled fire, a goddess who could both destroy and mend. Can you feel the awe she inspired, her temples filled with priests who offered prayers to soothe her wrath and seek her healing. Thoth, the ibis-headed god of Hermopolis, was another pillar of local worship, his wisdom shaping the minds of scribes and priests. As the god of writing, knowledge, and the moon, Thoth was the scribe of the gods, his quill recording the decrees of Ra, the spells of Isis, the judgments of Osiris. He was the one who restored Horus's eye, his cunning winning the extra days for Nut's children. Can you see him now, his ibis beak dipping into ink, his scrolls glowing with the light of lunar wisdom? His temples were centers of learning, where scribes studied hieroglyphs, their pens echoing Thoth's divine craft. To the Egyptians, he was the keeper of time, the measurer of the stars, his presence a reminder that knowledge was as sacred as the Nile's floods. These local gods were not isolated, but intertwined with the greater myths. Bastit's joy balanced Sekhmet's fury, just as Thoth's wisdom complemented Anubis's solemn duties. In cities like Thebes, Hathor, the cow goddess, brought love and music, her sistrums rattle a call to celebration. In Elephantine, Khnum, the ram-headed potter, shaped human souls on his wheel, his hands molding life from Nile clay. Each region had its deities, their stories reflecting the land's diversity, its deserts, rivers, and fertile fields. Picture the temples now, their walls painted with scenes of Bastet dancing, Sekhmet roaring, Thoth writing, each god a thread in Egypt's spiritual tapestry. Can you hear the chants, the clink of offerings, the laughter of festivals that bound communities to their gods? These local cults were not mere superstition, but a way of life. Farmers prayed to Bastet for protection from vermin, warriors sought Sekhmet's strength, scribes invoked Thoth for clarity. The gods were present in every aspect of existence, from the cradle to the tomb. Their temples, though smaller than those of Ra or Osiris, were alive with devotion, their priests and priestesses weaving the divine into daily rituals. The Egyptians saw no separation between the cosmic and the local. Each god, great or small, was a part of Ma'at, the balance that sustained the world. Can you feel the warmth of that connection, the sense that the gods were near, watching over every harvest, every birth, every prayer? Yet even these local gods felt the tremors of the greater struggles. As Horus and Set clashed, the people turned to Bastet for comfort, to Sekhmet for strength, to Thoth for guidance. The local cults were a refuge, a reminder that the divine was not only in the heavens but in the hearth, the field, the scroll. As you drift deeper into this tale, let the image of these gods linger. Bastet's purr, Sekhmet's roar, Thoth's quiet wisdom, a chorus of voices that sustained Egypt through its trials. But what happened when the world of the gods began to change, when new beliefs and powers rose to challenge the old? Let the gentle rhythm of this story carry you forward, as the myths of Egypt face the winds of transformation. The Nile flows steadily, its waters cradling the echoes of Bastet's purr, Sekhmet's roar, and Thoth's whispered wisdom, as local gods weave their magic into the lives of Egypt's people. Above, Horus's battle with Set nears its resolution, the eye of Horus gleaming as a symbol of restored order, while below, Osiris reigns in the duet, guiding souls to eternity. Yet the world of the gods is not eternal in its form, for even divine stories bend under the weight of time, conquest, and human hearts seeking new truths. The myths that once defined Egypt, vibrant as the Nile's floods, begin to shift, their light dimming as new powers rise. Picture now the twilight over the pyramids, their stones weathered by centuries, the chants of priests growing faint as foreign winds carry whispers of change. As you sink deeper into the soothing rhythm of this tale, let the fading light of Egypt's gods envelop you, carrying you into a story of transformation, where the ancient pantheon faces the tides of history. The mythology of Egypt, born in the primordial waters of Nun, had sustained a civilization for millennia, its gods as constant as the stars in Nut's sky. Ra's sun rose each dawn, Osiris promised eternal life, and Isis's magic protected the land. But as Egypt grew, its borders stretching under powerful pharaohs, the world beyond the Nile began to intrude. The Old Kingdom, with its towering pyramids, gave way to the Middle and New Kingdoms, where trade, war, and conquest brought new peoples, ideas, and gods. Can you see the caravans now, winding through the desert, their goods and stories mingling with Egypt's own. The gods of the Ennead, once supreme, found their voices joined by others, their temples sharing space with new altars. The first tremors of change came with internal shifts. In the New Kingdom, around 1500 BCE, the pharaoh Akhenaten challenged the old order, raising the sun disk, Aten, above all other gods. This was no mere worship of Ra, but a radical vision of a single deity, a monotheism that dimmed the light of Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Akhenaten's hymns praised Aten alone, his temples stripped of the old gods' images, their priests silenced. Picture the confusion in Thebes, where Amun, a local god merged with Ra as Amun-Ra, had reigned supreme. The people whispered, uncertain, as Akhenaten's city of Akhetaten rose, its open-air altars glowing under the sun, the old gods relegated to shadows. Can you feel the unease, the sacred balance of Mayat trembling as one god eclipsed the many? Akhenaten's revolution was brief, his Aten worship fading after his death, the old gods restored under Tutankhamun. But the seeds of change were sown. The priests of Amun grew powerful, their wealth rivaling the pharaohs, their influence shaping Egypt's spiritual landscape. Amun, once a local god of Thebes, became a national deity, his name joined with Ra's, his temples grander than ever. Yet, even this fusion could not halt the tides of history. Foreign invaders, Hyksos, Assyrians, Persians brought their own gods, their altars rising alongside Egypt's. The Greeks, arriving under Alexander the Great in 332 BCE, blended their deities with Egypt's, creating Serapis, a fusion of Osiris and Zeus, his image a bearded king rather than a green-skinned god. Can you see the temples now? Their walls carved with both hieroglyphs and Greek script, a testament to a world in flux. The myths themselves began to shift, their stories retold to fit new rulers and beliefs. Isis, ever adaptable, grew in prominence, her worship spreading beyond Egypt to the Mediterranean, her name invoked by Greeks and Romans as a universal mother. Horus, the falcon god, became a symbol of divine kingship for foreign pharaohs, his image adorning their crowns. But the old unity of the Ennead frayed, its gods fragmented by regional cults and foreign influence. The priests of Heliopolis, once guardians of Autumn's creation myth, saw their influence wane as Thebes and Memphis rose. Can you hear the chants growing softer, the old hymns mingling with new prayers, the gods' voices blending into a chorus no longer purely Egyptian? The rise of Christianity in the Roman Empire, centuries later, dealt the final blow. By the 4th century CE, temples to Ra, Osiris, and Isis stood silent, their altars cold, their priests scattered. The Jewett, once a vibrant realm of trials and renewal, faded into legend, replaced by new visions of heaven and hell. Yet, the gods did not vanish entirely. Their stories lingered in the stones of abandoned temples, in the amulets worn by secret devotees, in the myths whispered by travelers. Isis's image, nursing the infant Horus, echoed in Christian icons of Mary and Jesus, her love eternal. The Eye of Horus, a symbol of protection, adorned hidden charms, its power undimmed by time. Can you feel the gods' presence still, their essence woven into the land they shaped? The fall of the gods was not a destruction, but a transformation, their stories evolving to suit a changing world. Egypt's mythology, born from the Nile's rhythms, became a legacy carried across cultures, its gods finding new forms in distant lands. As you drift deeper into this tale, let the image of those ancient temples linger, their stones silent but heavy with memory, their gods watching from the shadows. But what legacy did these myths leave, and how do their echoes resonate in our world today? Let the gentle rhythm of this story carry you forward, as the Nile carries its waters, into the final chapter of Egypt's divine saga. The sun set slowly over the Nile, its golden rays fading into the twilight, casting long shadows across the weathered stones of Egypt's ancient temples. The gods Ra, Osiris, Isis, Horus, and the countless deities of local cults have seen their worship dim, their altars silenced by the tides of time and change. Yet their voices have not been lost. They linger in the sands, in the stories, in the very soul of the land they shaped. As the Ennead fades into legend, their myths ripple outward, touching distant shores and modern hearts, their symbols enduring in ways the priests of Heliopolis could scarcely have imagined. Picture now the quiet of an evening in Egypt, the air soft with the scent of lotus, the stars above whispering tales of gods who once walked the earth. As you settle deeper into the soothing cadence of this final chapter, let the gentle flow of the Nile carry you, guiding you into a story of legacy, where the myths of Egypt live on in art, culture, and the human spirit. The gods of Egypt were more than deities. They were the heartbeat of a civilization, their stories woven into every aspect of life, from the planting of crops to the journey of the soul. When the temples fell silent, first under foreign rulers and later under the spread of Christianity, the myths did not vanish. They were too deeply rooted, too vibrant to be erased. The Egyptians had carved their gods into stone, painted them on papyrus, etched them into the collective memory of a people. Can you see the pyramids now, their capstones once gleaming with gold, still standing as silent sentinels of Ra's light? The obelisks, the statues, the tombs, all bore the marks of the gods, their images a testament to a worldview that saw divinity in every sunrise, every flood, every breath. Isis, the mother of magic, left perhaps the most enduring mark. Her cult spread far beyond Egypt's borders, carried by traders and conquerors to Greece, Rome, and beyond. In the Mediterranean world, she became a universal goddess, her temples rising in cities like Pompeii and Athens, her name invoked by those seeking love, protection, or wisdom. Her image, nursing the infant Horus, resonated deeply, its echoes seen in the Christian icons of Mary and Jesus, a mother and child bound by divine love. Can you picture her now, her wings spread in a Roman temple, her eyes as warm as they were on the Nile's banks, her magic transcending cultures? Isis's legacy was her adaptability, her ability to speak to the universal human need for care and connection. Horus, the falcon god, also endured, his Eye of Horus, the Wedjat, becoming a symbol of protection that outlasted the pharaohs. Sailors wore it on amulets, artists carved it into jewelry, and even today its bold lines appear in tattoos and designs, a reminder of resilience and wholeness. The struggle of Horus and Set, order versus chaos, found echoes in later myths, from Greek tales of heroes to modern stories of good and evil. Can you feel the power of that symbol, the eye that watched over Egypt, still gazing across time, guarding against the chaos that threatens every age? The rituals of death, guided by Anubis and Osiris, also left their mark. The art of mummification, born from Isis's love and Anubis's skill, influenced how later cultures thought about the afterlife. The Book of the Dead, with its spells and trials, inspired mystical traditions, its echoes found in the esoteric texts of Greece and Rome. The idea of a judgment, a weighing of the heart against truth, resonated in religions that followed, from Christianity's scales of justice to the moral reckonings of other faiths. Picture the Hall of Judgment now, its scales still, but its idea alive in stories of accountability and redemption, a legacy of Osiris's eternal reign. Egypt's myths also shaped the arts, their vivid imagery inspiring generations. The lotus, symbol of creation, bloomed in paintings and architecture, its petals a reminder of autumn's emergence from none. The Sphinx, with its lion's body and human face, became a universal emblem of mystery, guarding secrets from Giza to Las Vegas. Hieroglyphs, Thoth's sacred gift, fascinated scholars, their decipherment in the 19th century, unlocking Egypt's stories for the modern world. Can you see the Rosetta Stone, its carvings a bridge between past and present, its words whispering of gods and pharaohs? Egypt's myths fueled the imagination of poets, artists, and filmmakers, from Shelley's Ozymandias to Hollywood's epics, each retelling a piece of the ancient narrative tale. The spiritual legacy of these myths endures as well, touching those who seek meaning beyond the material. The Egyptian view of Ma'at, balance, truth, and harmony, resonates in philosophies that value equilibrium, from Eastern traditions to modern mindfulness. The idea of a cyclical universe, renewed each dawn by Ra, echoes in beliefs that see life as a series of rebirths. Even today, people are drawn to Egypt's gods, some as spiritual seekers, others as scholars, their stories offering a glimpse into a worldview that saw the divine in every aspect of existence. Can you feel that connection, the thread that links us to the priests chanting in Heliopolis, to the farmers praying to Bastet, to the scribes honoring Thoth? The legacy of Egyptian mythology is not confined to museums or history's pages. It lives in the questions we ask about life, death, and the cosmos. The gods, though their temples stand empty, still speak through the stories they left behind, through the symbols that endure in our art and dreams. As you drift toward sleep, let the image of the Nile linger, its waters flowing through time, carrying the voices of Ra, Isis, Osiris, and Horus. Their myths are a gift, a reminder that the human spirit, like the gods, seeks to create, to love, to endure. What new stories will rise from these ancient roots, and how will they shape the dreams of tomorrow? Let the gentle rhythm of this tale carry you into slumber, as the stars of Nut's sky watch over you, whispering of a legacy that never fades. As the stars of Nut's sky fade into the gentle embrace of night, and the stories of Ra, Isis, Osiris, and Horus linger in your dreams, I invite you to carry this journey forward. If the myths of ancient Egypt have woven their magic around you, soothing your mind and sparking your curiosity, please take a moment to like this video. It's a small gesture that helps these tales reach more dreamers like you. Subscribe to the channel and tap the bell icon to join our community, where more stories of gods, heroes, and ancient wonders await to guide you into restful slumber. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Where are you watching this from, and what time is it there? Did a particular god, perhaps Isis's unwavering love or Horus's fierce resolve, capture your heart? Share your thoughts, and let's keep the spirit of Egypt's myths alive together. For more journeys through history's most enchanting tales, check out the playlist linked below, and consider sharing this video with someone who'd love to drift off to the magic of the Nile. Thank you for joining me, Sherry, on this journey. Until next time, may the gods watch over your dreams. Good night.